I see Justice is typing. Gotcha. Go upstairs. Okay. Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Hoping everyone is having a great day. The weather was gorgeous today. And if you've been with us every Thursday night, thank you for coming back. And tonight we have a wonderful interview with a wonderful filmmaker, a writer-director, Prarthana Mohan, who is with us tonight.
Hi.
But yes, hello. But what we're going to do before we get into that, we're going to just talk a little bit about the Atlanta Film Festival and what's coming up with the Atlanta Film Festival. Of course, we know the original date was postponed, but the new dates are September the 17th through the 27th. So put those on your calendar, mark your calendar. There are still calls for entries for next year's festival for 2021. And the early deadline is July 9th. And so, you know, those deadlines will continue and continue. And we know the rate just goes up the more you wait. So go on and get that thing in now. All right. We want to see your work at Atlanta Film Festival. The badge sales are still on as well. You can get your badges, and with your badge, you get all types of cool deals and membership deals if you join Atlanta Film Society, or if you buy your badge. All of these benefits you get at the festival and throughout the course of the year. So make sure you go to the website, atlantafilmfestival.com. Also, Atlanta Film Society is also the other place for information. One more thing we've got, I forgot about this. Look, it's down here. I don't have a teleprompter. So I've got my teleprompter down here, right?
Doing great.
But thank you. Thank you so much. We are, look, where'd it go? There we go. Screenplay reader application. For you people out there who love films, love to read scripts, Atlanta Film Festival needs people who, from all different areas, who love film, but definitely if you're in the film industry, we would love to have you be one of our readers. The application information is online. The deadline is July the 1st. So if you want to do that, if you want to get an opportunity to be involved and give your input as to what you think should be here, I'm losing my words, right? And I'm looking at Prarthana like she's right here with me, right? Hello.
You're doing so good.
Anyway, once again, all of the information is on the website. So if I messed up something or couldn't read one of these things, all of your information is there. So first off, what we're going to do, we're going to watch the trailer of Prarthana's film, The MisEducation of Bindu, and then we'll cut back and we will talk to Prarthana.
Awesome.
She doesn't want to go to school and won't tell me why.
Seems like people just don't like me.
That's just part of the high school experience.
You got a problem, Curry Muncher?
I mean, you can't really munch gutty.
She was getting teased by some boys, and I told her sometimes boys tease girls that they like.
Bet it felt pretty good to say.
Not as good as this will feel.
What's that?
It's the only way to end all this.
How many classes do you have to test out?
Just one.
I'm helping her study for Spanish so she can test out of school.
The Spanish proctor will be in the attendance room in 7th period today. Well, I still need the fee.
I don't have it.
5 class periods. That's like $10 raised a period. What do you plan to do?
I'll pay you $5 for each toke you take. Bring on the tokens, huh?
You got a scoop to come to me, all right? And I pay.
I need her to bring me $55.75.
Why?
It's for the dance.
Did a boy ask you to the dance, kiddo?
Hell no. That's a lollipop I won't lick.
She's talking about blowjobs.
Oh, shocking.
What is that?
Bindu got asked to a dance.
What dance?
Are you at all worried about what you might be missing out on?
Like,
No, boys. She knows better.
Sam likes you like a cat likes a mouse.
What kind of a school is this? Where is my daughter?
Bindu Chaudhary to the front office. Bindu Chaudhary to the front office.
Okay. All right, and we are back. Welcome, Prarthana Mohan, our writer-director. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's just start off by a little bit about you. You know, where are you from? Where did you grow up? And a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to thank Atlanta Film Festival for doing this and having me on here. Like Karen said, my name is Prarthana Mohan. I'm the director of MisEducation of Bindu, and I co-wrote it with Kate Tuxford, one of my really good friends. I am originally from India, Chennai, India, south of India, and I came to the U.S. in 2006 for grad school, and that sort of started my journey in film. As a film student, and then I've been here ever since. And now I live in LA and I make films and I work at a film school, and I'm, trying to make it all happen and get in this industry and make movies. So that's kind of sort of who I am and where I'm from.
Oh, awesome. So is LA the only place you've taken up residence in the States, or have you lived other places?
This is the only place I've ever lived in the U.S. I used to come to the U.S. to visit family when I was younger, and I always came to New York because I didn't ever come out as far as LA. And then the first time I came to LA, I was like, this is where I want to live. There's all the sunshine, and back then there was a lot of greenery. Right now it's all sort of going brown and getting ready for fire season. But that's kind of, I've not lived in any other part. No, just LA.
Well, and what types of things about the environment, but what types of things about maybe the culture did you find, what was it that you found so comforting perhaps, or once you got there?
I think this is something that I've said often before, but I think America does a really good job of exporting its culture through cinema. So I grew up watching all the movies from here, and when I came here, I felt like a lot of things felt very familiar, and it sort of helps you sort of assimilate. In LA, I would say the thing that I absolutely love about being here is how I'm finally in a city where everybody is as obsessed about movies as I am. And growing up in India, where we didn't actually even have TV in TV shows and stuff on our television until in the 90s. So it was mostly just static or like farming shows and stuff. And getting movies and getting content to watch was a real struggle, and then to come to a place where pretty much anything that was in the theater first, to sort of have access to content and movies and concerts and music and things of that nature has been, phenomenal. And of course, LA is so incredibly diverse. I have never lived around such a diverse community. I have discovered, cuisines and cultures of folks from all over the world, which I never got to experience growing up in India. And I think that is like one of my most favorite things about living out here, is sort of the exposure that you get to so much of the world from a little corner of the world. Really cool about living here.
So when you were a little girl, what was your relationship with films like then? Like, I mean, you say you watch it and everything, but there definitely had to be a different kind of vibe that you got from there that maybe other family members weren't really getting that. How was that as a child?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very lucky that I was steeped in cinema from a very young age, because my grandfather was a very big music director in India. So in Indian cinema, the music composer is extremely important because all our movies are musicals. And my grandfather has done over 2,000 films in India. And in fact, the song that's in Bindu is composed by him. It's from one of his movies from back in the day. Yeah. So I grew up going to movie premieres and watching my grandfather being like, surrounded by fans. I have sort of lived and seen the impact that his work has had on people, kids, generations growing up with his music and things like that. So I've really experienced that firsthand. And I think that's sort of where my love for cinema and storytelling has come from. Having seen that sort of up close and personal, I've gone to a lot of like recording sessions with my grandfather and things like that. The challenge that I had though in trying to work in the Indian film industry was I very quickly would get outed as being my grandfather's granddaughter. And the next day that I show up, everybody would be like, you need to just go sit down. We don't need you to do anything. And I'm like, what? I came here to work. Like, what are you guys doing? You know, which was a very strange experience to have. And I would say like that's sort of been my relationship with cinema. It started very young, very early. And I've always been really obsessed with movies and trying to track movies down that were hard to get. Going to the local, lending libraries, movie libraries, and, to hang out there all the time and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely been a huge part of who I am.
So did you have conversations with your grandfather? Like, at what point was this your thing that you liked and not just something like, oh, my grandfather does this and it's kind of fun to be around? At what point did you own that this was a path for you?
I would say that probably came somewhere in high school. So like most Indian kids, I was on my path to go to medical school. It's very common in India. Most kids go to either medical school or engineering, and I was headed that way. And then in high school, I went to sort of like, by American standards, it would be sort of like an alternative school. We did, it wasn't your typical kind of high school. And in your high school last 2 years, you do a lot of working through like issues and things that you have through theater and drama. And that's where I discovered writing and I discovered acting, which I wouldn't do anymore because I'm terrified to be in front of the camera. And it was during that summer that I discovered that I didn't want to study medicine anymore. And I wanted to study film and I wanted to study, screenwriting and all these sort of things. And it was it was a little difficult for me to convince my parents at that point because I'd spent so much time going through the motions of getting into medical school, where in the summer of starting school, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Please, can I do something else? And they were like, okay, what do you want to study? Biotechnology? And I was like, no, I want to go. Right, yeah, I was like, I want to go to film school. And they were like, what? Why? Like, what's going on? And luckily I have, parents who are very understanding and supportive. So they eventually go to film school as long as I stuck with it and really showed them I wanted to do it. So through undergrad, I did projects and film and stuff like that. So they finally were like, okay, go ahead. And they've been very supportive since, yeah.
So how old were you when you actually wrote your first story?
Probably maybe about 12 or 13. One of the things that I would love doing as a kid was I would watch a movie and then I would essentially enact every single scene, all the actors, all the parts, and really drive the neighbors up the wall, because I would watch the movie first and then I would go into their house and then act the entire film out for them. So yeah, I've always enjoyed telling stories and imagining these things. And I actually see that have that personality in my son, and I find it pretty funny. And I don't know if it's something to do with being kids, but that's always sort of been me. But I would say the first time I ever really wrote something that was a story would have probably be around 10, 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Bollywood is such a recognizable brand. I say brand in just the same way that Hollywood is a brand. Yeah. My husband is from West Africa and he grew up on Bollywood movies. He's like, I grew up, I know all the stars, I know, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I love that you have an ode to that in the movie. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I'll try not to give too much away. But how do you feel that it seems like the society is so driven toward math and science and that's what we know, but art is still so much of a big part of their culture and just Indian history. And, how do you make sure that you're representing that and showing what you know as an immigrant experience here in America In addition to just, things that you like, oh, this is me now. LA, that's my vibe. What's up? How do all these things work together?
I think growing up in India, while being at school and education is always the one thing you are expected to do well as a kid, all of us learn Carnatic music, traditional Bharatanatyam or whatever. We have our parents make sure we are learning the arts as well. It's just that for whatever reason, there isn't as much of an emphasis to pursue that as a career. Just like sports or anything else in India, that's not looked at as a viable path, because, it's hard being an artist. It's difficult, it takes so many years to get a project off the ground. Like Bindu took us 10 years. We started working on it when we were in grad school. It's a slog. And, I think a lot of parents don't wish that on you, they're like, don't do anything that's that hard. Do something that's easier. Go be a lawyer. I'm like,
be a doctor.
Go be a doctor. I'm like, that's pretty hard, guys.
Just go be responsible for other people's health and well-being. Just do that.
But when you do those kinds of professions, there is an understanding that when you do X, Y, and Z, you'll eventually be, the trajectory is very clear. I remember being in like one of my first classes in Chapman, where I went to grad school, and I think our instructor was like, look around, most of you are going to quit within the first year. And those of you who don't quit are going to probably be working in some other industry. And I was like, what? No.
Not what I want to hear. You're supposed to give me the yay speech,
Exactly.
Let's start talking about the film, though, because the film really is about the juxtaposition of, American society and someone coming into the, like, literally being thrown into a pool, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Thrown into the situation. So it's not exactly your experience, but where did you draw upon in the assimilation aspect, or the need to fit in, or the desire? Honestly, she doesn't even really want to fit in. She just want to be her own.
Yeah. She's like, fit in. Yeah. So, the MisEducation of Bindu is not based on my experience or Kay, who's the screenwriter's experience, but it's an amalgamation of things that we did experience. High school is pretty universal, whether it be here or in India, or, she grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. It's confusing, fraught time where we feel like we're under the microscope, but everybody's got their stuff going on, and we kind of wanted to make a film that resonated with us, in the sense that a lot of high school films, the girl becomes the prom queen, or the goofy kid becomes some, it's all these like tales where they transcend whatever their trope is. And we didn't believe that was true of high school. There were lots of victories, but they were very small and they were very personal. And two people down there had no idea what was going on, because everybody's dealing with your stuff. Because adolescence and growing up, it's just a crazy time. And we wanted to sort of tap into that about a film where it's not some huge victory. She doesn't end up as like prom queen or anything, but she is from the beginning to the end, and she is more comfortable with who she is, and she learns some truths about herself and the world that she's in, and I think that was important for us. And I think with regard to like assimilation, a lot of what she goes through with regard to assimilation is actually very true for me, because I came in here much later in my life. I didn't grow up here, and I very much often feel like an outsider, because I'm not first generation, so I didn't have the same experiences, right? And at the same time, I don't have enough of a community of people because I didn't grow up with them. So in many ways, I'm sort of isolated and doing my own thing. And I think I was able to draw from that. I was able to draw from what that feels like. And of course, relationships with your mother and relationships with, your dad, and what that feels like, and how complicated parenthood relationships are, because being a parent, I know now that I have most of the time no idea what I'm doing. I'm just hoping for the best, you know.
Just keep them alive. That's all you can try to do.
Exactly. And I think
that's all I can do.
exactly. And I think, you know, becoming a parent has also made me have a greater understanding from my parents, where I've cut them a lot of slack now, you know, because I'm like, guys, y'all did your best, you know.
Right.
Good job. Exactly. So those were universal things that we were able to draw from. And, you know, some of the relationships, Kay, who's the screenwriter, was also able to draw from. And, you know, Bindu was not always a high school film about an Indian girl. Like originally when it was written, Bindu was Wendy, because this was 10 years ago. And the industry was not even interested in a high school film about a girl, let alone an Indian kid, you know? So a lot of this had to evolve with change that we're seeing in the industry and in the movie-going population, you know? So a lot of that sort of evolved with time.
Man, I have two different directions I want to go right now, because I do want to ask you about the process of bringing this to the screen. You said it took 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I also, well, you know what, we'll get into that other stuff a little bit later. Let's talk about your process, the 10 years from you all starting this. You were in grad school or right after grad school?
Right after grad school.
Okay, so you started grad school. Let's start to where, hey, let's do this, into, oh my God, we're about to premiere this thing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
bullet points, right?
It is, well, let's go to the bullet points. So Kate Tuxford, who's a co-writer with me, she wrote a short film in grad school. That's how I met her. And this film is actually based on that short film, where Bindu was Wendy, but a lot of the story points are similar. And that film did really well in festivals and things. And then when we graduated from grad school, we were the first group entering the recession time. So it was 2008, everything was crashing. There were no jobs, definitely no jobs for like immigrants. So Kay and I were like, hey, we don't have much to do. Let's make this a feature. So we spent the next 4 months writing it into a feature. And then we sent it out to screenwriting festivals. We were semifinals at the Nichols Fellowship. We were, meeting people were interested, but they were just like, yeah, but it's a high school film that's kind of about a girl. Like, I don't know. And it's like, what? Yeah, we go to high school too. We have problems. Like, people want to know about this, But it was just like there wasn't the same level of enthusiasm. And then, it sort of died. It sort of died out, and we all went our separate ways and were doing other projects. And then the cinematographer Danny, who also went to grad school with us, he was in India shooting movies at the time. And about 5 years ago, he was like, hey guys, why don't we pick up this film again and let's make Wendy an Indian kid and let's see what happens. And that's when Kay and I went back, and we had to obviously change things, reimagine things and stuff. And then we came up with that. And then we got the Duplass brothers on board through Seed and Spark, which is incredible. If you guys don't know who they are, they're the best.
Emily and crew,
Yeah, they are wonderful people. And we were able to get the Duplass brothers on board. And then they actually advised us to go from, our film spanned a better part of a semester. That was kind of the original film. And they were like, you're trying to make a $1 million movie in a shoestring budget. Why don't you guys make it a day? Make it all happen in a day. And that's when Kay and I had to get to work. And then we worked on for 10 years. We rewrote in about 2 weeks. And that's what it is today. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild how that happens. Yeah.
Deadlines to put the fire up under you, right?
Yeah. And I remember the first big crew meeting we were having in Indianapolis, and there were all these folks and young people who had all come to help us make this movie. And I got up to speak to them. And I was just really overcome by emotion, because I was like, I can't believe I'm actually here. Like, this has taken so long, to the point that my husband is a cinematographer, and he jumped on as a producer because he was like, we're just going to make this. Let's get it done, because it was like so many years of starting and stopping and struggling. And it just kind of all came together, and all these folks, jumped on board, believed in us, pushed us forward. We partnered with a really great group of filmmakers in Indianapolis, Pegasus Pictures, who kind of came in and sort of corralled the city to assist. It was wild. Once it happens, it really goes fast,
Right.
But a lot of lonely years before that.
Yeah. I remember Whoopi Goldberg made a quote one time. Okay, it's not big exactly. She was like, but this business is like, you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, and there you are. Like, it's just like, and then one day you're there and then you're everywhere. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, they just started or they just got here. Yeah. So, the diversity thing. And right now we're all talking about it and everything. But there are two kind of things that are going on right now in the culture, right? Right now, there's a certain percentage of the population that are just figuring things out, and the conversation is focused on Black Lives Matter right now. But the overarching theme is white hierarchy, the white patriarchy. And that's why it's been so hard to get things with people of color as leads and women as leads. However, the market has changed substantially since when you first started this process, right? Like, yeah, the number of women that are stars of TV shows, stars of movies, and it's all about women. I was just going through my binge this past quarantine season, and it's all female leads, all, you know what I mean? And how do you think you can push further on your next project when you're looking forward? What are the types of things that you want to maybe push yourself to do that perhaps you didn't have the support within the industry to do when you first came into Bindu? What are the types of things for the next project? You're like, you know what? We're going to push it harder this time. We're going to do more this time.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think every time that you get a platform to create, I feel that it is your responsibility to bring as many folks along with you as you can. We definitely, all the projects that I have lined up, the ones that I'm working on are, minority focused stories set in places that we don't typically see stories set, from, groups of people that we don't normally see as leads. That has kind of generally been my interest in storytelling. I have been lucky to go to, have meetings and talk about my work with folks. And, everything I pitch will be about a minority story. And in the beginning, I would see a reaction in them where they were like, wait, is that all you do? And now,
but surely there has to be a white man in this some kind of way. I'm sure we can change this to where it's really about the principle and how he has done.
Yeah, let's make it about him. Yeah. Exactly. And but now it's you can go into a meeting and you can say, yeah, there is a TV show about an Indian girl in high school now, Mindy Kaling's show, awesome. But it doesn't have to be the only show about that. Everybody else got tons of shows and movies about it. Why can't the rest of us? Because there's multiple stories yet to be told that are universal, that can tap into all our human experiences just through the eyes and lens of people that we don't normally see out there, And I think that's how I start all my meetings now. And then everyone's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense, Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think, even during the course of making the film, it's important to keep refocusing folks who generally are like, but, you need more of David Arquette in the trailer. And then you're like, David Arquette doesn't want more of David Arquette in the trailer, because David Arquette understands what, that this movie is about Bindu, and he supports that. So we all got to get on the train right now and like understand what the focus of the film is, because so much of it is done by paint by numbers sort of things. This is what it usually is. Well, we got to say, well, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to present things as they are and as they should be for the film that we're telling, and I think that's kind of where I think my responsibility as a content creator who is in these meetings or is making the next film or project, that's where I think, it's those kinds of areas where you can actually affect change and make sure that it's, the right things are being represented about the project, because that's why you made it,
Right.
Yeah.
So how long did you shoot? What was your shooting schedule?
We had 18 days. It was 18 days in Indianapolis. We had 7 days in the high school. the high school, we were the last people in the high school. The high school is actually closed. They don't have any students in there anymore. But it was this beautiful facility. We would never find a school like that in LA. It was a performing arts school, so it had all the instruments, and the kids were such incredible artists that they left murals and all the artwork on the desk. Most of the PD in the movie is the students' work. And one of the things that we wanted to do was showcase it because the school is not going to be around anymore. And we wanted to sort of honor all of that and have that as like a time capsule for the students if they ever wanted. Because we shot hell out of the school, every single corner of it, because it was such a stunning school and the kids were so talented. The artwork and everything was all, there. So we shot there. Then we shot, we had about another couple of days at the house and some exterior stuff, and we were done. Yeah, it was a pretty quick shoot.
And what was the casting process like?
In the beginning, it was terrifying because, I don't know a lot of, teenage Indian actors just out there in the world to draw from. And this movie lives and dies by Bindu. If she's not good, this movie is not going to be good. And we found these really wonderful casting directors from New York, Daryl and Ali Beans, and they were so hands-on, so incredible, so excited about the project. And they, we found a combination of actors, some from here, but from New York, from Chicago, from Atlanta, from all over. We just wanted people that really wanted to be in the movie, and it was, perfect for it. And then we got super lucky when Priyanka Basu wanted to be in it, and David Arquette wanted to be in it. We were like, wow, like I get to work with these guys. This is cool.
And you're the boss. Look, and you're the boss.
Yeah, and finding Bindu was the most important task, and Megan is incredible. She's such a smart, funny actor. She has incredible comic timing. Naturally, she's very funny, so she really gets the material, and she is such a trooper. We put her through so much. She's in every scene in that movie, and she handled it through all of it. She was so great. And then we found Philip Labes, a wonderful actor. He's so sensitive and sweet, and such a really, really wonderful performances. And all our actors were they came in and they did the work. They were so sweet with each other, and they became such good friends that I'd have to break them up during lunch and be like, you got to go be mean to her after this. Enough of all this hanging out business, They all became such good friends, and I think they still are in touch and stuff. So they made directing this film a breeze, considering how little time we had. We didn't get the opportunity to take multiple takes, and they really came in ready to do the work. So it was an honor to work with all of them.
Yeah, it seems like that's really where we're heading right now, where everybody don't get a bunch of multiple takes. Got to knock it out in a couple days now. Small cast.
Yeah.
How is that affecting you right now? So hard. I've been writing. I've been working on the script, and now the whole script. I was so happy I finished. I'm like, nobody's gonna want to buy this. It's too many people, and how is this affecting your process now in the unknown? Right.
At this point, I am not writing anything for the COVID world. I am just writing. To be completely honest, when everything went down, it was incredibly difficult to be creative. First with, COVID and going home, staying indoors, and friends, losing jobs and all of these kind of things. It was like a free fall, and it was really difficult to sort of wrap your brain around it. And it was happening everywhere. So it was affecting my family in India. It was affecting my neighbors. It was affecting my friends, me, of course. But so that was really difficult. And then when you finally kind of got a hang of that, and then, all of the other stuff that's gone down has occurred. And I think it's the one thing that I'm really grateful for this time is that it's given me an opportunity to really sort of deal with how I'm feeling about things. because typically when things come up and I feel a certain way, I'm just like going through life, whatever. Now I have to be still and like deal with it. And it is, I think in many ways has been helpful, but it's also caused me to just burst out into tears while making like a peanut butter jelly sandwich for my son, where I'm just like, what is wrong with all of us? Like, why can't we be better or whatever,
Right.
But I think that's important. I think it's important to sit with those feelings and do the work that comes from that, so that way, yes, but I'm not writing anything that is designed to be shot anytime soon.
Right.
Like I can't even function that way, like where I'm like, okay, how do I make something that is like outdoors, everyone can stay 6 feet apart, indoors, no touching. I was like, I'm not designed for that yet. Yeah, I'm just hoping, I don't know, scientists do their thing and get us a vaccine. Get on it.
Okay.
And until then, wear your masks, people.
Why are people acting like nothing's going on? And then the numbers are just like, Arizona's what, like 140-something% up?
I don't know. It's basically we're opening up and we're worse off than when we closed. So it's like, what are we doing? Yeah, it's like, what is happening? Yeah, it's like bizarro world. I don't even know what's happening, but it's again the whole thing about wearing Malaysia. People just are more comfortable wearing masks. It's not a big deal.
Right.
The I don't know. It just causes a lot of stress for folks here. Not most people, but I don't know why. It's just a mask.
Because there's politics attached to the mask. It's a representation. But I'm gonna ask you this. So your husband's in the industry, you're in the industry, and you have a 4-year-old. Tell me what the first month was like up in that house, right? Where you were.
I don't remember a lot until my son started sitting and playing on his own. Until then, it was just like a blur, and then I was like, oh my god, he doesn't need me for like 20 minutes. Woo! It's tough. It's definitely tough. But we are lucky that we have a very easygoing kid. And we are also lucky that even though we live in LA and we don't really have immediate family, both our family, until at least COVID, have been in all extended family and everybody have been extremely generous with their time and coming and spending time with him so we could go off and do things. Bindu was filmed in Indianapolis primarily because that's where my husband grew up. And he has a big family who just took Cyrus into their arms, who's my son, and he didn't care that we were missing for most of the day because he was having a amazing time with his cousins and his grandparents and aunts and uncles, and forever grateful for that because we couldn't have made this movie without that kind of support. So I don't think anything that we do can happen without that sort of a network and folks coming in and willing to support us while we go off and do these sort of things. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a question. Look at this. When reflecting the culture in the film, what helped make the musical decisions?
Well, for one, I wanted to pay homage to music in Indian cinema. So we wrote a music number into the film. And then I definitely wanted to have some sort of connection to my grandfather because he's a huge reason why I do what I do. So we went after and tried to find a song that was appropriate for the film. The musical sort of style of the film, we worked with a really great composer out here, was to find a sort of modern take on sort of Indian vibes. And I had never worked with a composer this closely before, and he taught me a heck of a lot on how to actually work with a composer because music is not my language, so it was very hard for me to explain when I liked or didn't like something. And he's a saint and really patient and helped me learn how to communicate with the composer. And we were able to sort of find the sound of the film, which is kind of like got some electronic sort of vibes with like Indian and a lot of drumming and beats because we wanted to like create the sort of like intensity and use a lot of like offbeat Indian instruments and things like that. So that's sort of how the musical decisions for the film were made. There's a lot of music in the movie.
And I mean, I just loved it. And there's a part of me that I was, I wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I see it, I'm like, okay, this is so cute. So we like that apart. And again, Bindu, she's absolutely adorable. Sweetness just kind of radiated through it. Oh yeah, I was telling you this before. So the audience doesn't know that I got to watch it last night. My son, my 15-year-old son and my husband, we watched it together, and it's a nice family film. Yes, it was a lot of stuff going on with what she was going through. I'm like, our kids are so cruel, right?
It's got some, challenging moments, but it's a high school film. I think some of that is kind of goes with the territory. But we wanted to make a film that was funny, but also had moments that were, felt like you could kind of coming from. And we also want to make a film where, Bindu is not perfect in any way. She's got her own stuff that she needs to deal with. And she does in her own way through the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there was one scene, and I don't want to give stuff away, but there is a scene where she's being bullied publicly and no one really stood up for her, right? And that is kind of part of the conversation, the bigger conversation out in America right now is when things are happening to people, that people are not standing up and speaking up, and that it's not just a high school thing. You know what I mean? It's
learned behavior. I mean, it's learned behavior, and unfortunately in high school, kids really sort of are emulating what they're seeing outside in the world and the conversations they're hearing at home. Kids can be very cruel, and I think the ones that actually grow out of it, when they reflect back on their behavior, it's almost like, where did this come from? But I think in that age, you're trying to find out who you are, and sometimes you do that, you lash out because of how you feel at others, and the ones that stood up for people when they were in high school are probably the ones who are still standing up for people outside in the real world. But I think that is something that is a problem, is that when we see something that's wrong, whether it be online or whether it be at a supermarket or whether it be wherever, most of us tend to just want to not there, and go about our day. And I think we need to address these things head on, and find ways to have conversations about them so that does not continue. And the person who that's happening to doesn't feel like they're invisible or no one can step in and help them, So yeah, there's definitely some of that in the film for sure.
Okay. So what, this is another one of our questions. Thank you. What is something you hope your audiences take from this film as an experience?
Yeah, I think the thing that I think I would like the audience to take away is, especially at that age, but I think it's applicable to any time, we often allow other people to define who we are, by what they say about us, what they call us, what they think of us. And in this film, she, not to give too much away, but she eventually takes away the power of the words, right? Because she's like, I don't care. Yeah, whatever, And I think that's probably the thing that's most important for me, for people to take away, is that the words are only as powerful as we make them. So if we take away the power from them, what another person says about you does not matter, and it shouldn't weigh on you so heavily. And especially at that age, so much of that factors into how you feel, how you do, and who you become. And, finding ways in which to remove those, what words can mean, because it has nothing to really do with you, it's more to do with the other person. And at that age, you don't have the foresight to see that, and you allow it to define who you are, and you have a terrible time and all these things. And I think there's definitely, more conversations about that. And I think that's probably what I want the audience to leave with the most.
Yeah, because it's definitely, again, a story about someone. It seems like she knows who she is, but she doesn't know who she is in this world. You know what I mean? And she doesn't know where her place is in this world. And it's, to me, again, it's another analogy of what's going on, because regardless of whether or not she knows herself, whether anyone else appreciates who she is, she's still working within this system, this structure that has rules that don't necessarily benefit her and don't have anybody in positions of power and authority that are looking out for her well behalf. You know what I mean? So I definitely, I took that away a lot.
Yeah. Go on.
There was-
Awesome. Yeah.
There was one point in the movie, somebody did something, and my husband and I both said at the same time, see, that's what they do. Right? We'd be like, see, that's what happened. We went to our son, we like, see, right?
Yeah. One of the most, we've screened the film at festivals, and it is always my favorite thing to see the audience reaction to things, because the number of people will come, or, like there's a lot of like cheering at certain parts because people haven't seen it. And you could probably imagine the parts where like people are like, yeah, and stuff, and then, I've had teachers and all kinds of folks come after the screening and tell me, how they actually still see a lot of this. And this is how it was when they were in school. And it just makes me kind of sad.
Right.
It's still kind of like that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I think another thing is that all of the smaller sub-marginalized groups are now seeing themselves represented on social media, seeing people out in the streets. Whereas if you were in this small town in the 80s, you wouldn't really know that there was someone else with that experience. My son and I are both like, nerds, like sci-fi nerds and stuff like that. And growing up, Black kids aren't into that, or Black kids aren't into, but now he's growing up in an environment where he's being seen. Lots of Black kids that are into comics, into sci-fi. And it's important to have that vision.
Absolutely. I wish I had that, Like I remember watching, I think it was Hidden Figures. And when I was in second grade, I drew a picture of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I drew an astronaut. And then my dad was like, you have to be good to be an astronaut in math or something like that. And I was like, am I not good at math? So it was second grade. I never became an astronaut because, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was not good at math. But I think if I had seen that movie, I would be like, I can do this, because it was like, I remember I watched it like 2 years ago or whatever. And I was like sobbing in the movie theater because I was like, this is such a wonderful film for kids today, especially young girls of color, to see the contributions that, folks like them have made to the space race, and how all of that was like, you don't know, because all you see are the stories of the folks who actually made it out into space, not the folks who helped them get up there, So it's stuff like that. Representation it matters,
Yeah, Hidden Figures. The funny thing is, when I got accepted into Spelman College, I got accepted into the dual degree program, and I had a scholarship from NASA. And NASA had set aside money for students.
Wow.
Spelman's an all Black female college. They had set aside money.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I saw this. Well, I auditioned for one of the roles and researched, and I'm like, what? And then it was shot at Morehouse's campus, which, Spelman and Morehouse are brother sisters. And I'm like, there were Black women in this, and I never even knew how NASA bought into Black women early on. You know what I mean? And I think that's a statement also. Yes, they got kind of backed into a corner, but the fact is that they did reach out and bring these Black women on in a time that no one would have thought.
Yeah, I thought,
Black women
that's
going to be able to do that.
Exactly.
So what is your favorite part of the filmmaking process?
My favorite part of the filmmaking process is being on set. I love all of it, including the parts that make me want to pull my hair out. I love being on set. I like interacting with the crew and the crew and the actors, and I don't know, it's like the time that I feel the most alive. I would say that is probably my part. I also really like the post-production, because it is the exact opposite. It's like going into a cocoon with your editor, who I've always been lucky to edit with close friends of mine, and just, go into a quiet corner and just like start digging into the film, which is like a real good, come down after like being intense on set and like all the stimulation and stuff like that. But yeah, I absolutely love being on set. I like working with actors. I like, working with the crew. I would say the least favorite part is raising money.
Yes.
I don't know anybody who's like, I love that. But yeah,
Right.
I'm not very good at it. I feel so bad asking people for money. But you know, Cedar Spark has taught me some good skills on how to do that and things. That you're not asking them, and they're coming on the journey with you. You know.
We'll give another plug to Seed and Spark, because a writer's room that I'm in, you know, we were funded through Seed and Spark.
Wow.
And Emily, I worked with her a couple times, Emily Best, and
the best.
Yeah. So it's like democratizing the process, you know. And you know, yes, some people have a larger circle of friends that have, you know, can give you $100, but you know, a lot of us have friends that, okay, I can give 20, I can give 10, you know what I mean?
You know what?
Most
all
of us,
of that is, and every single dollar is incredible for filmmakers, because we couldn't do it without everyone's support. And in India, like, crowdfunding is not a concept, so we had to tell people what crowdfunding was. So we had to teach them, this is what crowdfunding is. Okay, now can you give us some money?
right.
But you know, that part was hard, but because you know, that's where it all starts, unfortunately. If you don't have money, you can't go make your movie. So it really taught us how to pitch and shop the project, and taught us skills that don't naturally come to a cinematographer and a director. We had to learn those skills, and that was I think for the best, because it'll help us in our next project.
Did you have any, like, what kind of conversations did you have with the Duplass brothers, since they are, you know, they kind of made their own name for themselves, and and now are a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. They, you know, when we met with them after we, you know, we won with another film, Drought, incredible folks. And when we met with the Duplass brothers, they were like, what do you want us to help you with? And we were like, help us with the script, help us with casting, and help us sell the film. And they were like, okay, that's all of it.
Right.
And I think they really kind of worked as mentors. They had certain things that they really believed we needed to do, and they got us to do it in the gentlest, most kind ways, even though we were kind of like fighting, and like, we don't want to make it a one-day movie. How about a 5-day? How about a 1 month? And they were like, they're like, this is great. Can you give me the 1 day? And, you know, we finally wrote it, and it made it a better film. They also told us, you know, no need to go after getting, you know, major stars, actors who really want to be in your movie, which is a huge gift for, you know, first-time feature filmmakers. And I would say that it was a blessing, because we actually got actors who were really good and really believed in the project. And then we got, of course, lucky by getting, you know, some, you know, known actors. But those are the kind of things that they really advised us on, like, you know, how to make the film for the budget we had. And then when it came to post-production, they gave us some broad stroke notes on the edit. And they sort of helped us fine-tune some things, but they really kind of like let us do our thing. And then with the festival strategy and stuff, they again came in and helped us, because that is the area that we are not experts at. And then, of course, now we're trying to get distribution for the film, and they're helping us with that as well.
Well, you know, we're at the end of our time now. And it was lovely talking to you. I look forward to the festival in September. Yay.
I hope we can make it out.
Yes, so I hope you can come on out for that. And again, the name of the film is The MisEducation of Bindu. It's our co-writer and director, Prarthana Mohan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, everybody at Atlanta Film Festival. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Yes, once again, give a shout out to Justice, Krupa, and Kavan.
Yes.
In the back, handling it, holding it down. You don't see them, but
it's magic.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Go to the website, find your information out. We will see you next week, 7 o'clock, same bad time, same back channel. See you then.
Thanks, guys. Bye.